The demonic dragon. That day, inside the police office, Chief James was awarding Michael regarding his dedication to solving a big drug-dealing case at the West alone. That case they had been following for a long time but hadn't come to an end yet. Michael has brought a big achievement to the station. James declared proudly that Michael was the best on behalf of the upper managers in front of everyone at the station. He added that Michael had contributed a lot to the station for the last 2 years, so if he kept it up, he would have a chance to be a deputy in the future. Michael became James's right hand. James could saw his leadership skills, so the chief wanted to promote him to be the deputy, right under him at the county. James didn't hesitate to give Michael credits. He was very positive about Michael's future. Michael was young, but he was bold, courageous, and worked cleverly. He was also humble and well-behaved to everyone, especially, he had never been self-righteous. "Michael, keep it up. You definitely have a bright future here." While the two of them were talking, there was a knock door sound. "Come in." A police officer came in and informed them about the Pond Village case. A man from Pond Village came to report that his brothers had been eaten by a monster. James frowned when hearing about the case. That was not the first time he heard about a human-eating monster. He had heard some similar cases before. James asked the police officer to send the man in so that he could have more detail about the case. Then the man had come to the chief's office. Frightening was still visible all over his face. James invited him a cup of water and asked the man to tell him everything clearly from the start. The man introduced himself to the chief. He was Dylan. He lived with his family at Pond Village. He had 2 brothers, and his parents had passed away for years. Since they were living at a rural highland with lots of rich resources, people were working as hunters for a living, so he and his siblings were, every season, they went to the mountain for hunting and collecting the valuable produces sell at the market. People haven't been aware of protecting the environment and protecting the forest and resources back in the day. So the majority of people were working as hunters, which was an easy-to-start job, could earn enough for a living, but hunters needed to have a strong body and skills to survive. It was not easy to take the produces from the mountain. Anthony had said to his brothers that people had found ginseng at the North Mountain area, so he suggested they go there and found their luck. Everything began when Anthony heard someone who had found ginseng up high at the mountain. The 3 brothers were very determined to find ginseng. Since ginseng was very valuable, it would bring them a fortune, enough for them to live in years. The big brother thought that they just needed to find the ginseng, and they would be loaded. But all of a sudden, Dylan spoke up. He was the second brother. He was afraid that they would be in danger because people also said that North Mountain was very scary. He advised that they shouldn't come there since a human-eating monster was a dragon at the mountain. Hearing his brother, Anthony thought that was just bullshit. He thought that was all makeup from the local hunters to fool people around. The fewer people come, the more those hunters could have it for themselves. And then the 3 brothers came to North Mountain. They climbed over the cliff of the mountain. Even though climbing over the mountain cliff was very dangerous. But to them, that was just a piece of cake. They were all very familiar with the mountain and forest. So just in a blink of an eye, they all could reach the top of the cliff. The 3 brothers have never come to that mountain before. They were amazed at the top of the cliff. At their first glance, there was a large primary forest. Promisingly, they could find a lot of valuable produces. They were all delighted and very sure they could bring home valuable stuff. They could see a large number of glorious herbs in the forest with their own eyes, and finally, I could find rare ginseng plants as they heard about, which everyone would wish to have. The 3 of them found the biggest one and started to dig it out. While digging the ginseng out, Anthony heard a roar in the forest behind him. And not just Anthony, his brothers, Dylan and Andrew were also hearing of the roar. They turned back and looked towards the forest. They felt that the roar was coming closer and closer to them. The big brother got a quick eye. He was the first one, saw something coming out of the wood. When seeing it clearly, he told his brothers with his shaken voice that he saw a dragon, the demonic dragon. A few moments later, a giant dragon-like animal flew toward them from the forest. At that moment, they let the rare ginseng out of their mind. They ran for their life, but the demonic dragon was too quick. It came to their place just in a second. The three of them tried to fight back the demonic dragon. The monster was like a tornado. It grabbed Andrew as if he was its small prey. Seeing the youngest brother was picked up to the air, Anthony and Dylan were unable to help him hopelessly. The monster rolled Andrew up in the air for a while, then tossed him strongly to the ground. Anthony and Dylan tried to reach their hands out to take him. But everything turned out very bad. Andrew fell off, and he wasn't in one piece. To be more exactly, that wasn't him. Just his full of blood clothes. His flesh had been eaten all by the dragon. Seeing the youngest brother had died just in a blink of an eye, the other two were very heartbreaking. While the two brothers were frightening and not yet to pull themselves together, the dragon was continued to attach them. It twisted its body in the air, then plummeted to them. The two of them tried to run ahead without a thought instantly. As a result, the two of them came to the edge of the cliff and fell off without noticing. Dylan fell to a branch, so he got some scratches, fortunately, but Anthony fell to the rocky ground and died instantly. It was so tragic. And then Dylan had rushed to the police station to report the case. After telling them what happened, witnessing his brother's tragic deaths, Dylan exceedingly regretted and grieved. He wished he could stop his brothers from going to the mountain, but everything was too late. He blamed himself. James requested Michael to gather the whole crew, prepared to go to North Mountain area swiftly. Michael disappeared from the room, and just in 4 or 5 minutes, everyone in the crew had been gathered and headed to North Mountain with James. During driving, Michael was curious and asked what James was thinking about the human-eating dragon. He didn't believe that monster could exist in real life. James was so serious and determined that he would like to eliminate it since it hurt people, regardless of whether it was a monster. The whole crew reached the bottom of the North Mountain and climbed up at the position Dylan had pointed out. They slid up to search out around. James carefully told his crew, "Gotta be careful. If anything was happening to them, they had to think about their safety first." Everyone brought their guns along and searched in the forest to see if there were any traces about the Vong brothers or the monster. James also joined to search the scene. Michael was very worried for James's safety. He gunned up and went ahead James and repeatedly asked James to be careful. While they were looking around, they heard a loud gunshot behind them. James assured that his crew had faced up the monster. He asked Michael to turn back and help his teammates. They followed the gunshot, and indeed his teammates were shooting to the air consecutively. James faced up high to the air. He got shivered and frightened instantly. There was a giant dragon. It was rolling in and out to avoid the rain of bullets from James's crew. In the middle of the rain of gunshots like that, even that was a giant creature. Its body got lots of wounds and split up to pieces. But the most surprising was its body had been healing right after then. Every piece could be rejoined to be a united body as before. It plummeted to young police. Just in a blink of an eye, the young police officer felt hurt in his hand. He eyed down. His whole arm had been swallowed by the dragon. James saw all of that. His eyes turned red. He angrily gunned up to the dragon and came closer to it to back the young man up. He asked one of his teammates to bring the injured police to the hospital and reminded everyone had to be careful. James was a brave and careful chief. At that time, the crew realized that the demonic dragon acted weird every time they shot at it. Some things were falling off the dragon. Come to look closer, those were grasshoppers as big as a palm. James realized it wasn't a dragon. It's a rare blood grasshopper. It was a kind of insect, drinking human blood and eating human and animal alive, both flesh and bone. He screamed out to everyone and told people to step back and find a place to hide. Guns and bullets weren't unable to touch and harm that blood grasshopper. James had faced it when he was in the military. There was the only fire that could destroy it. So he led his crew to burn those flying blood grasshoppers to blame. That worked indeed. As a result of that, the cloud of grasshoppers had been covered by the great fire. The fire was burning and burning. The grasshoppers had been burned to dust under the fire gradually. After everything had been settled, James and his crew gave a light sigh. There would be countless people who would be harmed in the future if they didn't eliminate that monster. The dragon-shaped cloud had been burned after a few moments. There was a very annoying smell then. Every single grasshopper fell down and made a rain of death grasshoppers. Everyone got goosebumps at that time. After a while, those dead bloody grasshoppers' bodies were all over the ground. They saw those grasshoppers were bigger than a normal grasshopper clearly. Their teeth were very sharp. They had just moved and gathered in a group and looked like a giant monster. James requested his crew to search around the area to root out the grasshoppers, or else they would populate and become more dangerous in the future. He requested to establish a barbed wire around North Mountain area so that those grasshoppers would not come out and harm people or their crops. Up to then, the rumor about the monster at North Mountain had been cleared out. And that was all thanks to James' chief. Back to the police station, Michael sent the case file to the upper managers. James asked after the injured teammates earlier. Michael reported that there was just a young man who had lost his arm, and there was no one in a severe injury. James was very sorry for that incident. He didn't want his subordinates to get in any wounds. James asked Michael to take good care of and award the injured teammate for what he had been through. James sealed the case, and the human-beating monster at North Mountains ended.